Hi, welcome back to our daily reading. So today we're reading Acts 12 and let's get into it. So Acts 12 is basically about how the apostles are going around and teaching the good news and the ramifications of them basically being persecuted for their beliefs, just like Jesus had promised. So James was killed. Unfortunately, he was the first martyr of the Christians, and Peter was imprisoned. And the thing that stood out for me there is that while Peter was in prison, it says the church prayed very earnestly for him in 12:5. And that's the most important thing that you can do when someone is going through something, is pray for them, because when two or more gather, then God is present and God listens. And when two or more agree to something, then God will deliver that prayer, because as it is in heaven, so it is on earth. And when a group of believers pray for something, ask God for something, and it's in his will, he will deliver it, and often very quickly. And that's how we see so many miracle healings and how we see so many miracles in general happen for people. So you can see that the church, they didn't go and try to get Peter out. They literally went to a room and they prayed together, because that was the best thing that they could do. And then if you read through Acts 12, you'll see that God actually sends an angel to get Peter out, and it's very easy for him. The other thing that was so cool about Peter getting released from prison via God, via his angel, is that later in verse 16 it actually says that the believers were amazed that God delivered this prayer, that he got Peter out of prison. So it's so cool to see that even though a lot of them had actually met Jesus and been around Jesus, seen all the miracles that he did, they were still amazed at what God was capable of doing when they prayed and when they believed. And when you read that passage, you'll notice how easy it was for God to get Peter out of prison. So God is a big God. Don't make him small. Don't make your limitations his limitations. Just because you can't imagine how something can be done doesn't mean that God can't do it, because God can literally do anything. We worship a God of miracles. We worship a God who is all powerful. And so whatever it is you pray for, if it's in his will, if it's part of his path for you, he will make it happen. All you have to do is have faith, believe in him, and ask for what you desire. And so the other piece that I thought was really cool in this chapter is that Herod was actually very painfully killed by God because he accepted the worship of the people instead of giving the glory to God. And that's not to say that if you have ego and you feel like the things in your life are because you worked for them through acts, not through God, it's not to say that you're going to necessarily die a horrible death like Herod did. But it is an important reminder that truly everything stems from God, that we are not the creators, he is. And maybe you won't die a horrible death if you take credit and you have a big ego, but your dream life will die. Like, a part of you will figuratively die, because if your ego takes over and you start taking credit for God's work inside of you and God's gifts inside of you and what you're able to accomplish through God, because we're not accomplishing anything by ourselves, okay? It's God, it's through God. So if your ego takes over, trust me, I say this from experience, this is part of my testimony, when your ego takes over, you get to a really dark place really fast. You start mistreating people, you start judging people, you start feeling like you're better than people, and even if you may not literally die of an infestation of worms inside of you, part of you will die. You will die to God's plan for you, because when your ego takes over, the choices that you start making and the way that you start treating people and the way that you start living your life, feeling like you're all powerful, it's only going to take you down into the depths of hell. It's never going to bring you peace. It's never going to bring you happiness, even if you're making a ton of money. I say this from experience. I had a really successful business at one point, but it was all ego driven, and I completely burnt out. And I shut it down, and I got into a really dark place mentally and emotionally, and that's where Jesus found me and saved me. But let me tell you, it certainly felt like a death. Even though I didn't have worms inside of me, just like Herod did, it definitely felt like a death. I didn't have life in me anymore because my ego took over, because I was selfish and I wasn't treating people well. I felt like they were under me or I was above them. You know, being in New Age previously, what they teach you is that you're God, that you're creating everything in your reality, and that couldn't be more wrong. And it gets you again into this dark pits of hell mentally and emotionally, and I don't recommend going there if you haven't been there. And if you're there now, just know that Jesus can grab you out and save you, because that's what he did to me. I hope this was helpful. I love you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.